Mswatu ingosi akayithathe akahambe nayo akayithathe yenza bakhe
Good afternoon. Your time now is 2 p.m. and welcome to yet another edition of Market View right here on Eswatini TV. I am Natalie Sitole, glad to be your host this afternoon. Our focus today is on opportunity, where environmental sustainability meets funding and entrepreneurship. Leading this conversation is the Eswatini Environment Fund, creating real business opportunity for especially community-based enterprises. The fund provides grants of up to 300,000 malangeni for small businesses and projects seeking to enter or expand within the green economy. The fund is actively investing in 5 high-potential sectors, all of which representing real economic activity with the potential to create jobs, generate income and drive inclusive growth, particularly at community level. With the current application deadline set for April 16th, how can businesses tap into this funding, turning environmental challenges into profitable, sustainable business models? But we're going to have that conversation with Payday Langonya. But first, our business stories. In our business stories, we begin with this. The Minister for Finance, Honorable Nir Weikenberg, has highlighted some of the key economic priorities and opportunities embedded in this year's national budget, describing it as a framework designed to stimulate growth, support local business and attract investment. Speaking during the Finance in Focus, the Minister unpacked the budget's economic highlights, emphasizing its potential to boost business activity, expand market opportunities and strengthen the country's economic resilience.
International Conference Centre, His Majesty is opening it on the 24th, and it is absolutely, I believe, going to be a game changer for our country. This International Conference Centre, I believe we're going to be able to attract conferences, especially across Africa, on the African continent, especially intergovernmental meetings. There's constantly these intergovernmental meetings taking place, and if we just get our fair share of those meetings, there'll be 2 or 3 a week taking place in our ICC. So I really believe in Eswatini that and what it's going to do is create a huge demand for tourism around that space. Not only tourism, but obviously also the need for hotels, the need for B&Bs, and the need for anyone with guest houses, or even if you have an extra room, to consider making space available for Airbnbs and those kind of businesses. In Eswatini, there'll definitely be opportunities around that, let alone obviously the employment that's going to be happening around the ICC and then the opening of these things. One's also hoping to get the old Royal Swazi up and running again soon. So just between the ICC and the hotels opening, there'll also be a decent amount of jobs, I believe, within the next month or 2 or 3, if you count the ICC and the hotels, being available in that space. Another one which is really going to be taking off, this budget has got a large drive for roads being built. And so there are what we call a whole group of double seal roads that are being built by the Ministry of Works. Many contracting companies within Eswatini are winning the tenders for those, and there's going to be a lot of work in that space, as well as even the major roads. The major road that is now going from Eswatini to Maloma to Spambanweni through that way, about 110 kilometers. And that road is specifically designed also to develop skills in that space, as well as to encourage businesses opening along that road. Another area where the budget was increased quite considerably. I mean, this last year we had 188 million within the Community Development Fund. So this is a fund that is managed by micro projects. Micro projects uses that fund in the communities to build bridges and small roads if we need roads, community halls, whatever the area needs the most is being built by micro projects. And I think one is starting to have a strong feel in the rural areas. Before, rural areas weren't feeling the impact of the budget, but I do really believe through micro projects one is now having quite a strong impact in the rural communities by the CDF fund and the RDF fund.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade has previously stated that more than 60% of small and medium enterprises operate in rural areas, underlining the critical need to strengthen economic development beyond urban centers and ensure more inclusive growth. With this in mind, we spoke to microprojects to find out what strategies are being put in place to ensure that local SMEs are not left behind in the economy. This includes improving access to markets through better road infrastructure, as well as enhancing connectivity between small businesses and large corporate enterprises.
We have an ongoing food bridge program, which this year has put aside 8 sites to be constructed, and with the budget of about 5 million, we're constructing food bridges. This is an old program which started in 2017, and we're doing this project in partnership with Engineers in Action. It's an American donor-based organization, and this year we'll be doing 8 food bridges. One of the food bridges was officially opened last week, Friday, at Mholokweni under Zombotse Emoba Ingundla, and more food bridges will be undertaken this year with the support of Engineers in Action and the students coming from the United States of America. Besides the food bridges, we can also report that there's an ongoing concrete road program which started last year. It's all over the country, whereby we are supporting communities in basically rehabilitating community roads. And we need to emphasize that we're not focusing on feeder roads. Feeder roads, it's Minister of Public Works' responsibility. The main roads are under Minister of Public Works, but we're really focusing on community road network, where it has been discovered that within communities, people are struggling to access feeder roads, which are quite a distance from these communities. So communities have fully demonstrated that they've got challenges in purely community networking or community mobility, if I can put it like that. There's a lot of challenges which are in those communities, and communities have come out in their numbers to support this road concrete program. And what we are doing there, we're basically constructing, in as much as the community can indicate that we need concrete in about 3-4 kilometers in a particular community. But we find that given limited resources, we only do phase 1, which is 0.5 kilometers. And then with the view to continue once we get funds. But what we're doing now, we're trying to identify very, very steep areas, very, very muddy areas if rains come, and we're trying to help communities to put concrete in those areas.
And that is your business brief. We'll speak to Payday Langonya after this.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is Market View, and moving on at the program, as the deadline for the Environment Fund grants applications draws close this Thursday, we speak with Payday Langunya, Environment Fund Officer at the Eswatini Environment Authority, who will break down just how businesses can benefit from this critical funding opportunity with grants of up to 300,000 malangini available. This initiative is set to empower local enterprises, drive sustainable development, and support environmentally responsible projects across the country. Mr. Langunya, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. We could start here. Just talk to us a bit more on the fund that I want to say it sits between development finance and enterprise support. In your definition, or in your books rather, would you classify it as a grant facility for social impact, or as an instrument that is rather very crucial for building viable green businesses?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. The National Environment Fund is really a grant mechanism that has been established by the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini to really tackle environmental challenges. And now, over the years, climate change issues also have become a problem. So environmental and climate change issues are one of the issues that we tackle. Some have referred to it as a social enterprise fund grant mechanism. But what really is about is that environmental degradation, climate change impacts are really affecting communities, they're affecting businesses as well. And there is a lot that communities, municipalities or open spaces or even businesses can do to tackle these challenges. So what government has established is just a tool to support communities or businesses, and even finance space where we are seeing that it's not just grants when we are talking sustainability, because you mentioned that keyword sustainability. We realize that for this funding to have great impact, probably need to blend it. There is now what they call blended finance, where now you can get a grant and then a loan. So that's where businesses come in, where we say you have something now to do, but for you to be financially viable, you will need a component of that to be a grant, and then the other component becomes viable to get a loan from a finance institution.
Right. I appreciate the fund having, rather extending the invite or application, saying that they're open to whether it's urban, rural communities, environmental groups, NGOs in the environmental management space. Perhaps for clarity here, can individuals or groups with a purely for-profit mandate, and especially no community structure, do they maybe stand a chance to benefit, or this is something that has to be strictly for a certain community? And I understand that there's also emphasis on the youth.
Thank you very much for that question. We have been getting this question a lot, where we are having a lot of interest from youth, especially in the business sense of it. But really, this fund is not, the first focus is not really the applicant. The first focus is the work that you are proposing to do. And that's what we're looking at. What we are proposing to do, is it going to have good impact in terms of environmental management or climate action? So that's the first level where we'll focus on. The applicant now becomes the second tier. That's why if you look at the eligible applicants, it's really everyone, if I may put it that way, because we are saying environmental groups, community-based organizations, we are even saying individuals. What we are really trying to say is that what is important is that what you want to do is that it's not just for you alone. It's not just good to want to get this grant and then you do something that you yourself eat, but we are saying what you are proposing to do should benefit the communities, and we have said that a minimum of 5 homesteads, as an example. But what we are saying that even if it's a business, for instance, we have had businesses that talk about waste management. It's a business that is going to benefit the owners of the business, but what they are doing is impacting the community where they are collecting and managing the waste. So what I want to emphasize that the first idea or what we want to do becomes a priority. And then who applies becomes secondary. And we have said that youth, women are encouraged to apply. So that becomes part of the scoring where we are saying, if we say that these applications by youth, then there are marks for that in our scoring criteria. If it's an application that's been submitted by women or led by women, be it a group, organized group or not, there are marks for that as we score these applications. But I just want to emphasize that this is a grant that the government has set up to ensure that we provide financial support to environmental initiatives, including climate change initiatives.
300,000 emalangeni, that's the ceiling, or the grant, rather, maximum grant, intended to benefit the community. I just want to ask, when you look at it, or when you assess some of these applications, do you consider the fact that the 300,000 emalangeni is just support, or is it rather, is there the element then of sustainability? Do you look at it from a commercialization perspective?
Thank you very much. Malangeni, it was a lot maybe 15 years ago, but now things have gotten expensive. It's not much, but it's something that can really get somebody started. So we take this grant as seed capital to really get people started, and not that it's going to be the only finance that they get. So sustainability becomes a key factor. Not only sustainability, but you also look at the, I don't want to call viability, but we want to look at the angle where is it a feasible project, if I may put it that way. Yeah. Is it a project that you can really implement, or is it good on paper? So those are the things that we look at in terms of technical expertise, in terms of support, in terms of local buy-in. Then once we get through that, we see that this project can really happen. Then we look at who is there also providing support. Some of these projects are happening under municipalities. We look at who is supporting you there in the space. Is it the municipalities, is it other agencies or organizations? If it's at the rural areas, also look at who is providing support. Is there an NGO you are working with, or a government ministry we are working with? So those are part of the things, and we look into those things as we assess, because there's no point really giving somebody 200,000 Malangeni. They implement, you come back 12 months later, there's no project. It's a waste. And I want to emphasize these are government funds. This is a national entity or grant, and we want to demonstrate, we want to go back to what we funded 5 years later and see it standing. Not only that, as I've mentioned, that this is a seed grant. It's, somebody can say, we want to showcase. If we funded a project in Hluti, maybe it's a wetland management project, we want all those neighboring communities that are close to that project to see how it's done, to learn, so that they can be able to go do it. Maybe with support from other entities, NGOs, or even other government funds that are there, including the RDF and others. So this is just showcasing, demonstrating, because really you can't cover the whole country. 2 million is not much, but we are just doing these projects to showcase, to say this can be done. And then people, once they see, they learn, then it's easy that you get support from somewhere to do this, including organizations, NGOs, who get funding from outside the country in some other places. They can now be able to demonstrate or develop projects copying or learning from what we have done on the ground. And we have seen that happen. So sustainability is a key factor across the 5 thematic areas that we support.
I understand that the priority here is environmental impact, not so much for business model, but that can be considered as well. What are any factors or elements that businesses or individuals or the groups wanting to apply that they really need to take into account?
Sustainability comes into play because there's no point giving somebody a fish today, they use the grant, they finish, and then you make a call next year, they're going to say we are applying again. So we have learned that if we fund a project that have benefits to the applicants or the project implementers, then we are sure that that project is going to stand. It may be certain in terms of income, revenues, or profits. So we are always considering those things in any project that we implement. That is there going to be something that the implementers are going to get as a result of implementing this project? That becomes one factor. So in some cases, it may be some kind of a business model embedded into it. That's why we really are promoting that even those that have a business mind into environmental sustainability, we are now infusing environmental sustainability with livelihoods or business sort of, so that we know that whatever they do, if they are able to make a living out of it, then we know that's going to stand.
Yeah.
Especially because nowadays we know that the economy in the country is not doing very well in terms of employment. We're having a lot of graduates that don't get jobs. So what we do as we evaluate these projects, and I should mention that every year we get more and more application. Okay. So what we do, we also look at the potential impact in terms of who is involved in implementation. We try to support or ensure that more graduates are engaged, more youths are involved, and also that the project itself, concept, to enhance it. You may apply, if you see it viable, you may apply that one or 2A, but the team, or we help you to say, yes, you can also do B and C to be able to make profit or to be able to make a livelihood. So it may not be strictly a business fund, but it's an integrated program, and that's what we call it. It's environmental management, but also making livelihoods. Because we know that the natural resources that we have are the only ones that can support us. And sustainability or having sustainable business ideas, we can infuse in this. And this is what we do to ensure that the country, because this is now 300,000, but the country now is also linking itself to global funds, environment and climate fund. So we are using these ideas or these projects, small projects we're implementing, to learn also to say, oh, this can work, this idea is sustainable. And then we are using those models to apply for bigger funds now outside the country, so that we bring funds into the country and do those big projects.
Fair enough. Langonya, thank you very much for your time with Livika. That was Payday Langonya, who is the Environmental Fund Officer at the Eswatini Environmental Authority, talking to us just about the EA Fund, or rather the National Environment Fund, and how businesses can benefit from such a funding opportunity. Market View continues after this. We'll speak to in-house economist Sanele Sibia.
Those that are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we have is all morning. When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to myself. I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare a turnaround is coming my way.
Turnaround is coming in my life.
Welcome back. Now for our market analysis, in-house economist Sanele Sibia is on standby. Mr. Sibia, good afternoon. It's been a while. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So, escalation between the US and Iran, and failed talks, and now the blockade of Iranian exports. How is this really reshaping global markets, and what could it really mean for oil prices going forward?
I thank you, Notile. Good afternoon to you and also to the viewers. So yeah, we are looking at those wild swings within the geopolitical landscape, and that is what is actually shaping markets this week and the past weeks. The war has been shaping markets. So what we're seeing right now is markets across the globe are actually just receding from the somewhat of a winning streak that we saw last week, and what makes it even a bit more worrying this time around, Notsile, is what it means for future peace talks and a potential peace deal in the region. Because right now, I'm thinking the Iranians are looking at this as what would call a bait and switch, where the US purported to be in talks, and then now they are the ones blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, that's the news coming out of Washington. On Friday, when we went for close, the U.S. markets were relatively rebounding, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average actually had lost 269 points. The Nasdaq Composite Index there was gaining some 80 points, and the S&P 500 lost some 7 points. So now that was largely a market move that was bolstered by the peace talks that we were seeing between Iran and the US, brokered by Islamabad. But right now, when you're looking at the futures market really does show two signs of a dip and a decline and a regression in those numbers. So that's what we hope we are seeing, and we are continuing to assess the situation in terms of what it would mean for markets going forward, and what the new wave of the war is going to be. But obviously, Brent crude has passed the $100 mark again in today's trade. No, it's sitting around above $100. And coming into Europe, so Europe is already reading into these numbers. Germany losing 234 points in today's trade. That is the DAX in Frankfurt, and the FTSE 100 in London losing some 37 points in today's trade, and the CAC 40 losing 72 points in today's trade. Now that's in direct response to the breaking down of those talks that we are seeing. And also an interesting thing to note in Europe is most of polled economists now pointing to a likelihood of an increase in the interest rate come December. So we're already still seeing markets pricing in the risk of inflation and the risk of an interest rate increase. Coming into Asia, Asia again is following those trends that we're seeing across the globe, following those breakdowns in talks. The Nikkei lost 421 points in today's trade, and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong lost 432 points in today's trade, with the Shanghai Composite Index, mainly in China, gaining some 2 points, to sit at 3,988.56 in terms of overall share volumes. But overall we are still waiting to see how this week progresses and what the new parameters for the operation of the strait are going to be. Coming into South Africa, the South African Stock Exchange lost its winning streak, losing 981 points in today's trade to sit at that 118,000 mark. So now following that, breakdown in peace talks, we're also seeing, emerging markets showing those signs of weaknesses. The Eswatini Stock Exchange remains unchanged. And in terms of our commodities, gold is above the 4,700 mark, but just showing some slight signs of a decline there, and the price of Brent crude sits steadily at $102 per barrel as at midday trade. And as we are continuing to get news coming out of Tehran and Washington, we do expect that the price of Brent crude will continue climbing back to that above 105 mark that we saw towards the end of last week. And then in terms of the currencies, Notsile, the Lilangeni is continuing to lose a bit of ground, though relatively steady at midday today, trading at 16.52 against the dollar and trading at 19.32 against the euro, trading. Each one Lilangeni now trades 1 Japanese yen. 1 Lilangeni now trades for 966 Japanese yen. Now that's a weakening currency, but at midday we had seen a bit of signs of stabilization and just a bit of strength. And we do expect that as the war continues and as there's a lot of uncertainty and a lack of clarity around the Strait of Hormuz continues, we should see the Lilangeni continuing to lose a bit of ground this week, towards the upper 16s against the dollar and the upper 19s against the euro, and probably just continue to gain strength against the Japanese yen. Thank you, Nasila.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear. That was in-house economist analyst Spear showing insights on the day's trade. Otherwise, this has been the Monday edition of Market View right here on Eswatini TV. From myself and the crew, thank you for your company. Until next time, take care.